but just being in the presence, there's this energy exchange. You know what I mean? That we need as men, that we're losing. People might have said, oh, Eb's a superhero. Eb does it all. Eb's this and that. And Eb played pro football and all this stuff. And meanwhile, inside there was a terrified, wounded little boy who was doing everything he could just to survive.
But for whatever reason, it's just not executing the way you planned. How would you help someone develop and keep faith for this endeavor they're on? What we hear you talk about and what we hear you do, I'm just going to say it doesn't make any sense.
What's up, guys? I'm Eben Britton, ex-NFLer turned yogi. Stoked to be with you all. Welcome to Ever Forward Radio.
Eb, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks, brother. Good to be here.
My tiniest guest ever, I think. Can you fit in that chair? You good? You comfortable?
This is a good chair, man. I like this chair.
Out of the gate, man, somebody who's never heard of you, I think if we just look at you, and as we're going to get familiar more with your content, what we hear you talk about and what we hear you do, I'm just going to say it doesn't make any sense.
Interesting.
Like, for example, like in a good way, in the best way possible.
Yeah. When
we were scheduling this, I was looking at a morning slot and you go, no, actually, I teach yoga in Malibu that day in the morning. I had to look at my phone like, this dude, you're what, like 6'5"?
6'6".
6'6", 250 pounds.
That's right.
Teaching yoga. I can't imagine my response if you walked in to teach my yoga class, man. So you don't make sense in the best way possible, but I know it's been a long journey to get here and we're going to get there. But, just out of the gate, why do you do what you do now? Why are you in this, to kind of use some of your words, you're in a very ebb and flow period of your life. And it seems like you're calming down, you're becoming more still, and you're not only integrating practices into your life, but sharing these practices and teaching them with others that, again, don't quite line up to what people might think when they initially look at you.
I spent a lot of time in my life with a lot of noise in my head. A lot to prove, a lot of voices, really self-attached to everyone outside of me's idea about what I should be doing, who I should be being, how I should be spending my time, how I should be handling situations. And interestingly, it still comes up, here and there, like family situations. And then somebody's telling me, Eb, make sure you do this. Make sure you say this. And it's interesting. It happened just a couple weeks ago, actually, with a thing that's going on in my family or that was happening. I thought, oh, isn't that interesting? There it is again. Somebody wanting to make sure I knew what to do, And couple that with I'm a super sensitive guy. I've always been super sensitive, just sensitive to stimuli, sensitive to my thoughts and emotions, sensitive to what's going on around me, other people's energy, other people's words, how other people are being. I came up in a family that was very affected by alcoholism, which anyone who's grown up in that atmosphere, there's a hyper-awareness, a hyper-vigilance that comes with that. You need to
dancing around certain people, behaviors,
exactly.
Triggers. Yeah,
exactly. You need to make sure you're safe. I need to make sure my little brother's safe. I need to make sure mom's okay, dad's okay. What's going to happen when they leave, or what's going to happen if I don't do X? A lot of this stuff. There was a lot of noise. It's the simplest way to put it. And football was this incredible vehicle for me to block that out, focus my energy and attention on something, and become really successful at it. But coming out of football in 2014 was my last season. And all of a sudden I was back in the midst of all of that noise, And along with that, like a lifetime of stuff that just came crashing over me like a tidal wave, and I had to look at it. I had to do something about it. And it started with Al-Anon 12-step programs. Al-Anon is for families of alcoholics. Then there's AA for the alcoholics. So Al-Anon's, I always put it this way, is I didn't have a drinking disease, I had a thinking disease.
Yeah, I've heard you say that before, and that's really intriguing. Can you unpack that a little bit more for us?
Yeah, so it's, it's not about, it was never about a substance for me, but it was about how I can radically overthink things to the point where it paralyzes me, makes me completely immobile, incapable of taking action, incapable of speaking up for myself. It's easier for me to become really small and tiny just to be safe and keep everyone else okay. And then I'll worry about my well-being sometime never.
So you put yourself on the back burner
Essentially.
for a long time?
Essentially. And that's a super subtle dance. Like looking at my life, you might not even think that. People who knew me 10 years ago or 5, 7 years ago, whenever it was that I started this process, this journey of changing how I'm living.
Being more in stillness and kind of this quiet space.
Yeah. People might have said, "Oh, Eb's a superhero. Eb does it all. Eb's this and that, and Eb played pro football and all this stuff." And meanwhile, there was a fucking terrified, wounded little boy who was doing everything he could just to survive. Felt like he was suffocating completely. And so, why do I do what I do now? It's happened out of necessity. It was either I was going to start unpacking this stuff, reconciling this stuff inside, developing a relationship with that noise, essentially, because it hasn't necessarily gone anywhere. It's just my relationship to it has changed. And, and that started with Al-Anon and 12-step programs, going into a communal sharing experience. In my case, it was a room full of men. This was a men's group Al-Anon meeting here in LA. And it was a really powerful thing to inform me that I wasn't alone. This wasn't something that was just totally unique to me. There were other people out there, other guys, men in particular, who had been through similar things, were struggling, had been through suffering, and had found their way into the light again.
Did you really believe that you were alone up to this point? Because I think we oftentimes probably think there's got to be somebody else going through something similar like us. I just don't know them. Did you really believe that, or was it just a matter of you finally were in a room around these people and it made it real? You actually had to put yourself into a different environment.
I think that's one of my mechanisms from my upbringing is that I will get, when I'm not doing well, I'll get myself into a mode where I think I'm totally alone and I've got to handle the situation on my own. I can't reach out to anybody. God forbid anybody knows I messed up or this is happening or whatever's going on. Like that's part of that brain chemistry.
Is that maybe because you didn't want to open up, or you didn't want to feel like you felt like maybe you would be a burden to other people?
That's a good question. I mean, that's a really good question. This is definitely something that is very, this isn't a rarity in the community of alcoholism and this psychology. It's an interesting thing to use the word alcoholism because it's so much more than that. It's a very specific brain mapping. It's a very specific psychological structure.
when we're looking at
And it's not necessarily just
addiction.
about alcohol.
Right,
You
yeah.
know, that's my point, is that when we say the word alcoholism, everybody immediately goes, oh, the fall down drunk, the blackout drunk, you know, but it's not necessarily that.
kind of have this stereotypical picture in our mind.
Yeah, I mean, it's the little things. It's the you know, communication via shame. It's the communication via guilt. It's sarcasm. It's gaslighting. It's narcissism. It's no consideration for anybody around you. It's a whole array of things that are behavioral things, you know.
Was it because you think of all of that surrounding alcoholism and your family dynamic that led you to really believe that because it's so complex, I have to be alone in this matter?
Yeah, definitely. You're going to get yelled at. Somebody's going to say, "What the fuck did you do?" You know, you're going to get criticized. You're going to get lambasted. You're going to be exiled because you fucked up and you can't do that. You know.
So even at the height of living in fear and this unique family dynamic you had around alcoholism, at the end of the day, at the end of that thought process, it was still, I don't want to disrupt not being a part of this tribe, of this family.
Absolutely.
So even no matter how bad things got, it never crossed your mind, I got to go, I got to get out of here, I can't be involved with this. You still had that attachment.
Well, football was I was like, football's going to take me out of this.
Okay.
You know, and it's not, you know, and obviously it's not a thing where you're walking around conscious of any of this. This is just how
most of us aren't.
You know, this is just how you're living. This is what you understand to be love. This is what you understand to be family. You know, it's difficult. It's hard. It's heavy. We're alone. We can't mess up. We got to be perfect. All this stuff.
Where else am I going to go? Who else is going to love me? What
I
else
mean,
can I do?
you're not even, I mean, as a child, when you've got a roof over your head and food on the table, you're not thinking about, you know, where else am I going to go? You know, for me though, football was this vehicle. I said that's what I'm going to do, like that. And that wasn't even conscious of like, I got to get out of here. It was just, it was more about skyrocketing myself to stardom, into the light, into the sun, to raise myself above it, to prove to the world that I'm not that I'm to be feared and respected and loved and all of these things, you know.
I've heard you talk about, not to jump ahead, when you chose to leave the NFL, you said a big part of it was this rage that you felt that you had or needed to play and to compete at that level. You no longer had it. It was no longer there.
Yeah.
Now let's go back to the beginning here. Was this the source of that rage?
Definitely, man. Yeah, this was my whole childhood was the source of it, you know. And look, this is one of those things too, where when you really get down to the bones of your being, you recognize that everyone's doing the best they can. And a lot
with
of
the
it,
tools that they have, right? Yeah.
with the tools that they had. And a lot of it was the perception I had about what I should have gotten, you know, and letting go of that, letting go of any idea of like, I wish my mom did this when I was a kid, or I wish my dad could have done that. Letting go of all that and recognizing that they were always doing the best that they could. What would have been loving me enough? What would have been supporting me enough? Because all of that has to be about me anyway, you know, and what I'm doing for myself. So, you know, once you come to that understanding, all of that stuff falls away and you recognize it was all perfect anyway. But that was...
Well said, man. Well said.
You know, that was the fuel on the fire. You know, that was the fuel on the fire. Feeling like I was always second to something or not cherished, loved, supported the way I thought I needed to be, or, you know, it almost, there's no words to articulate it because it's whatever I thought I needed was a fantasy anyway. That was a fantasy.
Wow.
You know,
what a tough yet necessary realization.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then you found this group of Al-Anon, and you kind of finally realized, or for the first time realized, I'm not alone. So how then did you kind of embark upon letting these walls down and opening up to these other guys and putting you on your journey now?
It was little by little. You know, that Al-Anon meeting led me to therapy, led me back to yoga, into meditation. You know, life took over, the universe happened, God happened, brought some really important people into my life, some really important mentors, brought me into some plant medicine experiences, and just little by little starting to investigate what's going on under here and starting to develop this relationship and learning how to let go and learning how to love myself and learning how to just be rather than have my entire life, my entire self-worth be about how much I'm doing or how much I'm creating or how much money I'm making and all of this, all of these unreal ideas about what it means to be a human, you know?
Ain't that the truth?
And so why do I do what I do? It happened out of necessity because for as far back as I can remember, even that little kid, what I was craving, what I was desiring was peace and freedom, you know?
So maybe do you feel like finally at this point in your life, or when these moments kind of transpired, you had the confidence, you had the bravery to say out loud and to take claim to what you wanted finally for your life, and kind of going back to what this little boy wanted all along?
Definitely. I think through that fire of complete obliteration, you know, coming out of football, I was mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually destroyed. No idea who I was. What am I supposed to do? What do I even like? What do I want? I have no idea. No idea.
Because how long did you play in the NFL?
Played for 6 years. I mean, spent 15 years in football from the time I was 13 years old until I was 28, you know, some of the most formative years of your life.
That's identity. That's
totally,
all that's right there.
Totally. You know what that's about. You know that what can happen when you focus your entire being on an endeavor, on a mission, and then you come out the other end and maybe you did what you wanted to do, maybe you didn't, whatever it is, it's over. Now you've got this whole expanse of infinity in front of you and you have no idea where to even begin. So all of that stuff, the Al-Anon, the therapy, and just this willingness, it was all just a willingness because I had been brought completely to my knees by life. I was suicidal and homicidal, dude. You know, getting into that Al-Anon meeting, the thing that happened before that was a call to my wife at the time saying, I'm going to kill myself or I'm going to kill somebody. Getting on the freeway to drive to this CBD company I'd started, you know? And I even felt that one, you know? She went to my mom, thank God she went to my mom's house in tears and said, I don't know what to do. I don't know, like, how to help this guy.
What was the physical state of being when you said that out loud, if you can go back to that?
Totally suffocating. Felt like I hadn't taken a breath in my entire life, you know, just like choked on shame, guilt, self-hate, all of it, dude. Like nothing. I had done nothing with my life. Here I am. I'm at that point. What was it? It was 2016. I was 29, 30 maybe. And I'd wake up days, man, and I'd look back at my life. I'd go, what did I even do? You know, I spent my life working my ass off to achieve this dream that was planted in my mind when I was about 8 years old. Did it. I did it. Played 6 years. Most guys play 2.7. I would look back and think, I did nothing. I've done nothing with my life. Crazy.
Do you think you were living your dream or were you living someone else's dream? I know we kind of talked about how you had a lot of other input of, Eb, this is what you should do, who you should be. But honestly, looking back now, do you feel like you asked yourself that question, it was prompted because it was never your dream to begin with.
It was my dream. I think it goes to a deeper truth that even if we're living our dream, that's not going to be the thing that makes us content and fulfilled.
So even in pursuit of and even living our dreams, it's not going to be enough.
1000%, dude. If that's the thing you're going, this is going to fix it. This is the thing that's going to make me whole. It's not. I've done it multiple times. I've had a handful of my dream jobs. I've been very lucky, dude. I've had dream jobs multiple times, and every time I find myself walking out the door of the building going, man, this ain't it, actually. Or better yet, or better, more specifically said, this is not the thing that's going to make me happy, fulfilled, content, free. So what is it about? It's got to be about something else. This deeper nourishing of the heart and the soul that has to be, that's a day-to-day thing, which has nothing to do with your job, has nothing to do with your partner, has nothing to do with what you're doing with your life, has nothing to do with how much money you're making. That is something that is so deep and intimate that we can only really know when we've taken time to get really quiet and know ourselves. Know ourselves, this thing that's happening inside of here, whatever you want to call it. I don't know what it is. The soul, the heart, the highest self. There's a voice inside that's constantly whispering and nudging and encouraging. That's the thing. That's the only thing that will, in the end, reveal itself to be a prosperous journey in bringing you deep happiness, fulfillment, and well-being. Is listening to that.
Why do you think we don't listen to that for so long? Why do you think we even actively try to quiet that inner knowing voice?
It's a good, I mean, this is something I'm fascinated by, dude. You know, I'm fascinated by this thing. Is it our conditioning? Is it the society that we live in? We live in a very dualistic reality. So good, bad, right, wrong. This is great. That's shit. I got to have that job to be the thing that I want to be.
Yeah.
When I make X money, then I'll get to be happy. All of these ideas that are totally nonsensical and fantasies. Because it doesn't matter, man. You set a goal for yourself today. Say, hey, when I make $1 million, then I'm going to be happy. You get the $1 million, you're going to be happy for about a month or something.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Then it's going to be, man, I need 100 million. I need 100 million, dude.
Why is
100
that?
million's the number.
What is it about the human condition that enough is never enough?
Well, we spend our life, this is something I'm stumbling on in the moment, which I'm really excited to talk about today because it's top of my mind and it's something
all right.
I've been thinking about a lot. And for the last year or so, I've unintentionally, though instinctively, maybe better yet, intuitively fallen into an open focus meditation practice.
An open focus meditation practice. What is that?
So open focus. So for me, my meditation practice every day for the last year, I've been meditating for 7 years every day, super disciplined, changed my life.
Wow.
Beyond anything else, meditation is fucking completely changed who I am as a human being.
I'm new to the game. I'm pushing about 4 months.
Love that, dude.
Yeah,
Keep it going.
Love it.
Shit just gets weird. Life opens.
Yeah, it does.
You start experiencing life in a completely different way. So I've been doing this open focus meditation, which I intuitively fell into. I had a guy who I was meditating for a long time, and I'd either do guided meditations or I'd listen to my breath. Very disciplined, got a lot out of that. And then one day I met this guy and he said to me, Eb, when you're following your breath, when your meditation practice is following your breath, that's a fire mode. the element of fire. It's very narrow focused. He didn't use that word. That's the word I'm using and putting on it. And Les
Narrow.
Femi,
Okay.
Les Femi wrote a book about open focus. He really pioneered this idea, this concept. And he was also a devout Buddhist. And in Buddhism, there's 3 levels of meditation, essentially. There's meditation, there's concentration, then there's contemplation. And contemplation is the highest form, and it's an open focus, meditative state that you get into. And it's essentially where you are eyes open and you're taking in everything in front of you, and you just continually let go of your mind's need, the mind mechanism of identifying everything in the room. So we've got door, refrigerator, shelf, couch. So you just, if you can let go of that and just be in it. And so for me, for the last year, I've been practicing this listening meditation. And listening is one of the most ancient forms in yoga, ancient forms of meditation. And it's the fastest way to the deepest center of your being. So in my meditation, I do eyes closed, set a timer for 20 minutes, and I just bring my attention to the sounds coming into my ears. I bring my attention to the sounds coming into my ears, and immediately I recognize that my mind wants to go air conditioning, dog barked outside, birds chirping, what's that humming out there? And little by little, I just let it go. And I just keep coming back to being in this atmosphere, this ocean of sound that's coming in. And you realize how much time, the mechanism of the mind is to identify and analyze everything that it's coming into contact with.
Hands down, that's it. Yeah.
And we're constantly doing that. We're constantly doing that in our life. And so it's a very narrow focus. And with a narrow focus, there's an element of stress because there's an element of danger. There's an element of having to kill your food to eat. You know, there's all of these. When you're in a narrow focus, think of it, think of a lion out in the plain. Narrow focus would be it locks in on an injured antelope that it's going to kill, bring down, eat it, bring it back to the what do lions? The pride.
The den, the cave, the pride. Yeah.
So provide food for its family. Open focus is the lion just chilling there under the tree in the shade, watching the whole herd go by. It's very open. It's very restful, recovering. So when we're in this narrow focus, we're in narrow focus so much of our lives. Think about it. You're on your phone, you're in narrow focus, you're scrolling emails, you're sending an email, you're accomplishing a task, you're preparing food, you're eating food, you're engaged with somebody else. You're constantly in narrow focus. And think about it, dude. Get to a certain point, you're just looking at life through a pinhole, man.
Seriously, yeah.
Literally.
Yeah. Just through the scope.
Through this tiny fucking dot. This little keyhole through the scope. So when you train yourself in open focus, and this isn't to say narrow focus is bad, good, open focus is good, because
Time and place,
we
different
need
application,
narrow
absolutely.
focus.
Yeah.
We need narrow focus. But when you train yourself in open focus, that little pinhole starts to open up and you start to be able to take in more information. You start to be able to take in more of life. And so when you're able to do that, your life becomes less about the stuff that you're doing, and it becomes more about how you're being and the state, the inner state of your life.
All the life going on around the things we're trying to do to make our life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which gives you, and this is beneficial for just about anything you could possibly think of in business, in relationships, in health, all the things. Because this opens up the pathways, the possibilities, the opportunities that are available to us. When you're looking at life through a really small lens in that constant narrow focus, it's very limited. the way to that target is very limited. There's maybe one way to get there. But when you open your focus, you see, oh shit, I could go that way.
Yeah.
I could go over the top. I could go underneath. I could go around the side. There's a million ways that I could do, that I can take this thing to achieve what I want to achieve. And something popped in my head this morning that I love. I love this guy Osho. You know about Osho?
No.
Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh, he's also known by that. There's a documentary about him called Wild Wild Country. It's sort of about him, and they paint him really as a cult leader. And he had this property in Oregon, and all kinds of crazy shit went down because people fell in love with this guy. He's a guru. He's a spiritual guru, super profound, very deep, very wise. A lot of really interesting ideas. I mean, check him out, dude.
Okay.
You'll love him. He's written, all of his books are his spoken word. He would speak.
Oh, wow.
And do these talks. You could also check out his talks
Osho,
on
okay.
Spotify. When you hear it, I say that they paint him as a cult leader in this documentary, of course, because there's this weird societal thing with killing God and killing spirituality. That I think is
Not
an
wrong.
interesting thing.
Yeah.
But so Osho said this thing that his goal with what he was speaking about was to inspire a new kind of human being. And he envisioned this new human being as Zorba the Buddha. And what he meant by that was there's Zorba the Greek, who's this character. Fact or fiction, I'm not exactly sure. The idea of Zorba the Greek is he's devoted to the bliss of life. Okay. Love, music, food, joy, dance, family, togetherness. You think about the dancing Greek and you get that image. It's just like good times, good vibrations, love, enjoying the delights of life.
Is it like was it Dionysus also?
Yes.
Okay.
That's a great analogy.
Okay.
Dionysus would be what Zorba the Greek was sort of embodied with.
Okay. Tracking.
So Zorba the Greek, Zorba the Buddha. So combining that love of life, that love of all the delicious material joys of this thing. Like, it's a wonderful thing to eat good food, to dance, to love your people, to be in good company, to do a job that you absolutely love, that fucking fires you up every day, that's purposeful and meaningful, and you just get excited doing it.
It doesn't get any better than that.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's it.
What else do we need, bro?
Yeah.
So to combine that with the Buddha, which is the ultimate in purity, openness, compassion, clarity, centeredness, peace, stillness. So to combine those two seeming dichotomies, to put those into one being. So someone who, Chase, essentially is like a guy like you and me, a man or woman who's interested in their spiritual well-being and also recognizes the divine bliss of modern life. This is where we're at. So when you spend this time investigating, it's an investigation at first, and then you reconcile the dark parts and you reconcile the things that you feel like are ugly or that you don't like or that you thought your whole life everybody else is judging you about. You've suppressed it. You've said no fucking way. And then you get to this place where you're not stiff-arming anything. You're just in it all. You're just available to it all.
Yeah. No, it sounds like you're kind of telling my story.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah,
well,
this
is the hero's journey, man. This is the journey to a full, loving life experience. We're not going to stiff arm the shit into the darkness and pretend it's okay over here when we go home. That's impossible. We've all tried to do that. You try to keep the job over here and the family here and my sexuality down there and my fucking drug addiction back there, and none of it's going to commingle, but it's all here.
That's the life happening outside of the focal vision that we choose to have
Yes.
on any given thing at any given time. It
Exactly.
doesn't mean it all doesn't exist and it's not there and we're going to have to deal with it at some point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's God. That's God right there, man. You know, that's that difference. We're in the narrow focus, we're in our ego, we're in our self-will. Open focus, we get into God, we get into life, we get into divine will. So when you're in that open focus, you're more available to, okay, what's really important to me, actually? What's really important to me? For me, it's peace, it's love, it's freedom. Those are three really important things to me. When I come into situations or modes where any of those three things start to get compromised, I know that I need to find another way to solve the issue.
How do you measure those? How do you know going throughout your day, your work, your life now that your peace, love, and freedom are either happening or not? Are they in jeopardy or in homeostasis?
I wish I could say it's this thing, but it's really a moment by moment, situationally based measure where it goes, okay. And it's about recognition too. There's a lot of, and the more you peel back these layers, the more aware you can be of who you're doing business with.
Right.
Who are you in conversation with? What's this situation happening here? And if I do X or if I do Y, what is that going to inspire here? What's going to happen? What's going to come out of that situation? And so then you can get to maneuver, and it's like, okay, what are the hills I'm willing to stand on and fight for? And what are the things that are not worth sacrificing my peace, love, and freedom? Now, sometimes there are things you come into contact with that on the other side of that is a greater expanse of peace, love, and freedom.
Like what? How do we know we're on one side of this greater expansion?
Maybe you're starting a business. And the business isn't going the way that you thought it was, but you know, you're just so this has been a God trip of coming into your divine purpose. You've gotten the download and the insight to create this thing and put it out into the world, and it's not quite happening yet, or you need to do something else. It's like, there's something on the other side of that. You know, that's where you say to yourself, well, I've literally laid my entire life on the line for this endeavor, and I believe in it with all my heart and soul. And that's part of it too. You know, there are things that we do in life that we come into contact with. For instance, that CBD company at that moment in my life, this is back in 2015, 2016, a part of me thought, this is my divine thing. But then I was in a room with people who we all weren't on the same page, and it had turned into something that I wasn't interested in being a part of. And I recognized that this wasn't something for me to stand on the hill for and die on, you know?
So what did you do?
I walked away. I totally walked away. And, you know, the company ended up falling apart not long after that. And God bless those guys. But it's one of those, it's this delicate dance in life, right? Like, how much energy are we willing to give to something? And if you've sold the farm to do this thing that you believe God put in front of you, or some divine entity spawned in your life, then that's usually something that it's worth sticking around for the miracle to happen.
Do you call that faith?
1000%, man. Faith is a key ingredient. Faith and trust.
What would you say to someone that is hearing what you're saying right now, maybe quite literally, you know, I've started the business, or I'm on this new endeavor, or I'm in a new relationship, and you have that gut, God-knowing feeling, but for whatever reason, it's just not executing the way you planned. How would you help someone develop and keep faith for this endeavor they're on? Because it sounds easier said than done.
1,000%.
How many times have we heard, have faith, have faith, have faith?
Faith.
It's just like, fuck, like, all right, but when am I going to get something in return? When is this actually going to land? When is this going to stick? When is this gut feeling going to turn into my life?
Yes. Good question, man. First, it's really important to get out of the mind noise, get out of the fear fantasy, get time alone, get time in quiet. Because that's the first thing that we come into contact with. That's the devil. That's the confrontation in the wilderness. That's Jesus coming into contact with the devil in the wilderness right after being baptized, and God says, "You are my beloved son."
Yeah. Talk about a fucking duality.
Dude, when I read that, I was like, this is our story right here, man. Because you get the God hit, you get the divine thing that's like, this is what I need to do. God's like, you're the guy, man. You are the guy to bring this into the world. You start doing it. Immediately after Jesus rises up out of the water, Spirit comes down, God's voice says, "This is my beloved Son, with whom I'm well pleased." Right from there, Spirit takes Jesus into the wilderness to confront the devil for 40 days.
It's perfect, right? It has to happen that way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And over again, the devil's hammering him. And by the end, he says, "Fuck you, man," essentially. I'm God's son.
And the only way Jesus knows how to say.
I'm God's son. I don't have to prove that to anybody. Be gone. And we have to do that for ourselves, because how many times you're in the God zone, man. You're doing the thing that you feel guided to do. You've gotten that far. That's a big step in itself, because that means you've cleared yourself of all of your needing to prove, you're needing to show the world, you're needing to do something to conquer, all of these ego-driven tasks that we all have for ourselves. Like for me, the NFL, it was about conquering the world for me. When I'm really honest about what that was, it was about proving how big and scary I was, because I was fucking terrified, dude. I was terrified and hurt, and I needed to show the world that I was big, strong, fucking scary as fuck. And I wanted to conquer the world. That's what I wanted to do. That's what football was, a vehicle for me to attempt to achieve that. And I destroyed myself in the process of trying to do that. Back, ruptured disc, torn labrum, concussions, torn ligaments and muscles all over my body, all sorts of shit, you know? So you get on the path, you've cleared out all the stuff, you feel divinely guided, you're doing the thing you feel you were born to do. It's not quite hit the way you thought it would. You were sure next month the fucking big deal's coming, the email's coming, the phone call, all of that stuff doesn't come. And then you're in your kitchen. Inevitably, this is how it happens. Or this is how it's been for me, at least. I'm in the kitchen. It's late at night. I'm cleaning up the kitchen just before bed. Feels quiet and calm and still and peaceful. And then this voice comes in. "Eb, what do you think you're doing, man? You don't have anything to offer people. Who do you think you are?" Now, this time, we've prepared, dude.
Oh, all right. All right.
We've prepared. Because we've been meditating every day for the last 5 years. We've been praying.
Yeah.
We've been developing ourselves, cultivating our energy, our inner fire. Been working hard. We've been disciplined. We've been fucking vigilant.
We've set the trap for this voice.
1,000%, bro. So this voice comes in now, and you hear it and you see it and you go, "Oh, there's that son of a bitch. There's that devil motherfucker." And you stand up tall and you go, "I know exactly who I am, dude. I know exactly what I'm doing. I know exactly what I'm here to do. And I'm doing a great job. Look at how fucking far I've come to get here, man. Life is a miracle. I've worked my ass off to get here, and I'm not stopping now."
Do you think that's worth saying to ourselves, maybe even before we get to that
Absolutely,
moment
man.
confronting our devils?
Absolutely.
Is there power in just voicing that, saying that, writing that?
The power of affirmation, brother. I write about it in my book. I wrote a book about my journey out of football and these tools that have helped me put myself back together and then cultivated a fucking rock solid spiritual foundation that proves itself to me every single day, man. Because life keeps happening, brother. Life keeps happening. There's difficulty, there's challenge, there's adversity. This is what life does. Are we prepared? We have to be prepared. And you prepare yourself one day at a time, every single day, with discipline and vigilance. And the dojo is in the mind.
Oh, yeah. Ain't that the truth, man?
The meditation, the prayer. So affirmation, prayer and affirmation. I don't know if there may be bigger believers in it than me. It's one of my staples. I'm walking around praying. I'm driving around LA praying to God. And affirming. Prayer is affirmation. Whether you're saying the serenity prayer, the Jesus prayer, or just saying to yourself over and over again, I love myself, I support myself, I approve of myself. Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life. Highly recommend that book. I read that book around that Al-Anon phase, and it totally changed my life. Changed my relationship to my words and how I was speaking to myself. Because the ego feeds off the devil. The devil comes in, the enemy, the demons, the conditioning. This is the same, different words for the same spirit that lives inside all of us. You know,
the questioning side, the uncertain side,
all the
fear,
criticism you've ever come into contact
inner critic,
with.
absolutely, yeah.
All the people who have ever told you can't do that, man. You can't do that. All those people, that voice, that's what that voice is. And so you rewire the mind, you rewire the inner being, the programming, by stating those counter statements to all of that stuff. I got this. Life is a miracle. I approve of myself. I love myself. I'm doing a great job. Absolutely. And then when that voice comes in, it's quieter and quieter. One day it's just yelling in your ear, man. You know that feeling. It's right here on your shoulder. That son of a bitch is just loud as fuck. Just telling you how hard it's going to be. Can you do this? The doubt, all of that stuff. It's right here. But over and over again, one day at a time, you just keep in your practice. You stay in the dojo, man. You prepare yourself, you train. And little by little, that voice is just way out there. It's way out there, and it just becomes this whisper. It's just barely a shadow. You go, oh, there it is. Yeah, I remember you. You're still there, huh? But you're much stronger.
Yeah.
You've developed yourself. You've cultivated yourself. You're in the light.
What you're talking about here, I think, is great advice, great words of wisdom for anybody to kind of take in and ponder and hopefully apply. But it really kind of hits home, makes me think of men. Because I think, at least in my personal experience, I've waited much longer than a lot of women I know, especially my wife, who has great intuition of these things, of ignoring that voice and suppressing it and trying to do anything else but address it and work on it. Do you think this is something that men more so nowadays are dealing with, or rather not dealing with? And why? What is going on with the modern man that we're not working in concepts like you're talking about here?
It's very true. And it's very true that I feel the same. This is a more difficult thing for men to step into, start looking at than it is for women, seemingly.
Even just these words, these concepts, I think just saying them out loud in a group of men, most guys would get uncomfortable. You know?
I think it goes back to, this is what I keep coming to. It goes back to, as men, our primal purpose was to hunt, bring food back to the tribe, and protect the territory. This was our primal purpose. This is beyond anything else. This is what we are wired to do. Go out on a hunt with our brothers, kill a big animal, bring it back to the women and children, feed everybody, and then go to battle, go to war to protect and secure our territory. We don't have that anymore, dude. We don't have any of that. For a moment, we found an illusion of the hunt in work, in industry, in corporate jobs, and making money. That has faded for a number of reasons. I think through the rising of the feminist thing, which is just, women should be able to work and have jobs and make money just like men, and great. That's all great. However, that's turning into this toxic masculinity thing, and men are
kind of pushing
suppressing
it far
women,
over the other side.
and then so now it's like, well, men have to walk on eggshells, and men can't even really be the macho, even if that was fake. And this is what I'm saying. We've come to critical mass on how far from hunter protector we've come. We've gone. And we can't even fake the illusion of the machismo, masculine, we make money and bring it home to the family and we're the breadwinners, and, the drinking and the fucking, like, having that sort of 50s male archetype thing of the dad goes to work in the suit and tie and comes back and the whole family.
Dinner's ready on the table.
Dinner's on the table, that type of thing. So that illusion is completely faded, and now we're left with this thing. And we also came through this moment through the 60s and the 70s with the hippies and Vietnam, where men felt like being masculine was too dangerous and we needed to feminize ourselves. We needed to get quiet, and women took on this really masculine dynamic to their way of being. And so the relationships got really thrown out of whack with strong men, sort of weak and feeble men who felt like they betrayed, that their fathers had betrayed their mothers, and men had betrayed women, which is partially true. I mean, we've
a lot of that happened.
Yeah, a lot of that is real. Like, the thing coming out of the hunter protector archetype was, we're the bigger, stronger sex of the species, so we use that to our advantage to dominate and fucking really hurt women. And so it came through this thing where we had to heal that and reconsider the masculine urge, which I think we've done to death. And now at this point, we're looking at, okay, so what is a man in modern society? How does a masculine male, where does masculinity reveal itself in the modern world? And what I've come to is, because we can say all of these things like masculine is the mountain, it's the king, it's the benevolent protector, it's the hunter, it's the protector, all of these things. But in modern life, like, where does our masculinity really reveal itself? It's in integrity, dude. It's in being able to have difficult conversations. It's in truth in our word. It's in showing up for our people. And we've lost that as men, because I'm in the tail end of leading this 6-week men's workshop called the Wild King, which has been amazing. And every guy in there, myself included, has revealed at some point during this process, I don't spend any time with men.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really spend any like real time with my bros.
That's such a theme right now, at least in my life. I'm seeing that in a lot of, I don't have a lot of other regular male relationships in my life, but the ones that I do talk with, this is like literally this morning at the barbershop, my barber telling me the exact same thing.
Of course.
It's rampant.
This is where we're at as men, you know? And I've got my brother. Excuse me. Other than that, I don't hang out with many dudes anymore. And I was thinking, I've been saying this because I've also had multiple conversations about this with guys over the last like 2 days.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, the last time I did it, I was playing pro football. And when we would get together, there's a lot of drinking.
Mm-hmm.
There's not much deep discussion going on. We're not talking about what we're struggling with, what's going on, what we're fired up about. We're talking bullshit, news, weather, sports, women, drinking. There's not a whole lot there.
Yeah, I go back to the same thing. Other than like, some gym buddies here and there when I was really getting into kind of discovering fitness and barbell life. If I had to be God's honest truth, I haven't had that in my life since the military. And it makes me wonder, like you're talking about with sports, why is that? Why do we only get this time, this camaraderie of brotherhood in these silos, but yet when we're out of them, why is it so difficult for us to bring that with us?
It's an interesting thing, isn't it?
I got out of the Army in 2009, a decade plus now. Like, that's on me. Why have I not cultivated that at this point?
Yeah. And it is on us.
Why do I have to reflect back so far ago to get that?
That's crazy. I'm the same, bro. I'm the same.
Should we hang out?
Yeah, let's go.
Let's go in the garage and do Kung Fu, right?
We need to do that.
Truly.
We need to hang out. We need to get guys together, and go on hikes, get a workout in, do some ice tubs, do something that feels maybe a little uncomfortable.
That's not the typical, hey, let's go
drink
the bar,
some beers,
watch the game,
all of that. That's great. That's great.
It's a great starting point for a lot of guys too.
If you've got a men's group, a good buddy of mine, Cal Callahan, he's got a great podcast, Great Unlearn.
Yeah.
He runs a weekly men's group, and
All getting wild in his backyard gym.
I've gone a handful of times, and it's a fucking special thing. And it's nothing particular. It's a bunch of guys coming together to hang out, talk business, talk about what's going on in life, share encouragement, share hope, share ideas, share resources. One day it might be a super intense HIIT workout. Another day it might just be hanging out in his office, listening to records, smoking bags.
Yeah. We did that on a show,
like tobacco and herbs and good stuff.
And you're probably going to wind up getting a smoothie at Sun Life.
Yeah, dude. And it's just, it's time with your brothers, man. And I don't think we need to put any stress on it. Like we gotta fucking save the world and change our lives every single time we get together. I think just spending time together is really powerful.
And not even, to your point, not even needing, well, I might be putting words in your mouth here, but if we don't have a men's group, let's say, and to my point of like, if we're going to play sports, we're together. Oh, if we're in the military, we're together. Oh, if we're policemen, we're together. Like taking that concept, but starting a small snowball. Look, the thing is, we're going to build time together. And I need to get uncomfortable first. So where and how can I start?
Yes, dude. I want to share something that I've witnessed that made me so fucking fired up. And Thursday mornings, I go to the 7 a.m. yoga class in Atwater Village, and I go with women. It's almost all women in there but me. That's not what I'm fired up about. After the yoga class, we walk down the street to get a coffee. And outside this coffee shop, every Thursday morning, I see these two dudes, and they're playing backgammon, or they're playing chess,
Yeah.
or they're playing cards.
Are
And
they older gentlemen?
one older, one younger.
Really?
And I watched these guys, and I just thought to myself, this is awesome. This is what it's about right here.
I see this all the time. Usually it's a group of older guys, like probably 70s, 80s, and every morning at certain coffee spots or lounges, and they're just shooting the shit. But they're
That's
there
it.
every fucking day.
And that's it, man. Maybe we just meet for coffee at this place every Wednesday morning. And there's nothing on the agenda. It's just come in, get present, hang out with some brothers. That's it. To your point.
It has to start by coming together somewhere,
That's it.
somehow.
That's it.
That's a great takeaway.
That's it. There's an incredible book, Iron John, by Robert Bly. Have you read it?
Long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, this is a quintessential text for men in particular. Women can read it too. I think you'll get a lot out of it, learning about what's happening inside the men in your life. It's so right on point. And he talks about there's many instances around the world throughout history of tribes, I think like Aboriginals and all sorts of different peoples do this thing where literally the men will go and live separately from the women. The men live in their own little tribe, and they come together for gatherings and feasts and food and, you know, all this stuff. And the children will live with the women for a certain number of years. And then the boys, when they turn 12, 13, the men will come in and take the boys away from the mothers. And the mothers know this is going to happen, but they have to act like surprised.
Yeah.
And the point is, it's a very intentional and powerful separation for the young boys from their mothers, because
From the feminine.
I was raised by a single mom. My dad was always around and very present. And my father did a wonderful job, and I love my dad to death. And he was very present in my life. That being said, 75% of my time was spent with my mom. And that raises a very certain individual, especially
Same
for
with
young men.
me, my grandmother, and my stepmom.
You know, and there's a certain thing that mothers are simply unable to give their sons. You're simply unable to give it. Masculinity is an essence, is a spirit that must be handed down from men to boys and must come through the men. And we lack that because we don't have any rites of passage. We don't have rituals around this. We've been completely severed from the hunter-protector energy that lives in us.
It's almost like our lifeline, our lifeblood to the masculine has been severed, diluted for sure.
Diluted, all of that. We've been completely disconnected from that. And it's on us because now we're starting to come in like you're having the thought, like, dude, I got to hang out with some guys. I don't hang out with any guys.
Yeah.
I'm surrounded by women too in my life.
Yeah.
Great. Love it.
Yeah.
Love my women, you know,
I
so
joke all the
much.
time. My wife, just us and girls' night.
Yeah.
All the time. Just me, her, and her like 4 friends.
And her friends.
Yeah.
And you're like, yo.
Which are my
wait,
friends. I love love them all.
Of course.
But it's just like,
There's something else.
can we get some dudes in here?
Yeah, dude. Can we just... And it's just that energy, right? Like you said.
Exactly.
We don't have to fucking go play a football game.
Yeah.
We don't have to go lift rocks or something. We can just hang out. But just being in the presence, there's this energy exchange. You know what I mean? That we need as men, that we're losing.
I think for me, when I reflect on this, it's more so what happens after the fact. What I mean by that is whenever I do, like after this podcast today, and, you know, we got coffee in a Sun Life bowl, you know, a couple weeks ago, and not to say that what happened during that time was not appreciated, but after the fact, I had such a deeper level of appreciation because it was that unique masculine energy exchange that I don't get very often. And that lingered with me. And it happens every other time that I'm with, my friend Caleb, I was telling you, he's in town. We had dinner last night. Even just shooting the shit with my barber. Just anytime I'm with another guy and it's just the guys, what I walk away with lasts way longer than that experience.
Yes.
And I think every guy listening, if you get really honest and reflect on that, I think they would agree.
Yeah.
I think they would agree. So let's just copy paste.
Yeah. It's important for our well-being beyond anything that we can really wrap our mind around. Once again, we want it. We live in this world where it's got to be specific. It's got to be goal-oriented. We got to get something out of it. But what if the thing you get out of spending time with a group of brothers, a group of your boys, is just a greater appreciation, a deeper sense of well-being in your life? That's a big deal, man.
Not a bad thing at all.
That makes you more productive.
Yeah.
That makes you more available. All of that. That's good. I love that, dude.
What's
It's a big thing.
You've been talking a lot about things, of the physical self, of the mental self. I mean, you're someone that has been a warrior, physically for many years on the field of the NFL, and now what you're doing, to kind of guard and protect your own heart now, but also bring a lot of this to other men and to other people. What is maybe one practice you have for physical resiliency and one for mental resiliency that is your non-negotiable? What's your go-to daily for physical and mental resiliency?
Right now, I'm either lifting weights, which I love.
Which you're back. I know you said you'd kind of taken quite a while off, right?
I'd taken like almost a year off serious lifting. I'd go in and kind of fuck around and
find out.
Yeah. Not really. I wasn't really finding out, actually. But I'm back, and I love lifting weights. Lifting weights has always been something that I think resistance training, really important for men. As far as having an outlet where you can really express that primal energy, I don't think there's anything better than lifting weights. Just feeling your body, moving through resistance, strengthen your muscles, strengthen your skeletal system, but it also really strengthens your mind. I mean, we come into a lot of resistance in our life.
Yeah. I think we bring that guy back up a little bit.
Bring it up.
Man versus machine over here.
Crank it.
There we go.
It's great for your mind, man. We come into a lot of adversity. What are you going to do when shit hits the fan, when you're facing resistance? I think weight training. I've been reminded it's a non-negotiable for me. Between that and hot yoga, do a lot of hot yoga, Bikram, and then some hot vinyasa. I try to get 2 to 3 classes in a week, 60 to 90 minutes.
Damn.
And the hot yoga, Bikram in particular, is a completely psychedelic experience. I mean,
I've done it once. I've done it once. I'm still recovering.
Exactly.
I'm still recovering.
A decade later. That's what happens, dude. I can't tell you how many times. I teach Bikram also.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn, man.
Monday mornings, if you ever want to come out in Burbank, dude.
I might take you up on that, man.
So many people come in, they say, I'm like, hey, have you done Bikram before? They're like, yeah, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, welcome back.
Because Bikram's what, around 110, 105? What's the room temperature?
Oh, yeah, 105, 50% humidity. It's brutal in there, dude. You do the same 26 postures every time, and once you've done it once, you come back the next time, you know what to expect, and it just becomes this completely emotional, psychological experience where you get to look at all of your little things, all of your little idiosyncrasies, the things you want to do, how your mind works, your attachment to comfort. All of this stuff comes right to the surface and you have to face it.
So would you say then this practice of mental or physical resiliency also serves your mental resiliency? Do you have a separate practice?
Big time. I do, and they serve one serves the other. It's definitely one of those things. I mean, so that's the physical stuff, which is definitely directly linked to my mental well-being. Then I also meditate every day. I do breath work every day. And the meditation, like I said, it's this really important experience for me of stepping behind all the stuff happening in life, all the mind noise, all the structures and the ideas about how it's got to be or what's going on or what we need to do. I just step behind that and get immersed in the infinite, eternal vastness of God, which is right there all the time. You'd be surprised. Telling myself from 10 years ago, Eb, all you got to do is meditate for 20 minutes and you do this, this, and this, and you'll have an experience of God. I'd be like, you're out of your fucking mind, bro.
Yeah.
Go take another mushroom, dude. It's true. It's really true.
That's why it's one of those things, meditation, I've been hearing for years
Of
and
course.
years and years. But literally, like I said, up until about 4 months ago, I didn't make it a regular thing.
Yeah.
It's just like,
Yeah.
Now I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. And you start to crave it. You start to find time to get it done and do more of it. And that's how it's been for me. So that one, because that gives me that space between myself and all the stuff going on out here. If I'm not, and again, this is now I've been doing it for so long that I've witnessed how I've developed momentum, but it's beyond momentum. It's I've reprogrammed the whole system so that even when shit comes in and the mind might try to take off in one direction or go on a thought train a million miles away in anxiety or panic or something that might have occurred before, immediately I'm like, it's all good.
You're playing a different game now.
Yeah, it's a different,
Totally different
game. It's a different game. So meditation is crucial. Breath work has totally changed my life, 1,000%. And breath is one of those things that we're not taught how to do it properly. Most of us are doing it wrong, weirdly.
Do you mouth tape by chance at night?
I don't. I know how great that is.
Game changer. I didn't bring any with me. Normally have some in my bag. I've been using this Elevate, ELVT breath tape, nasal strips at night. And I'm a guy who prioritizes sleep above everything. When I tell you literally overnight, my body changed is an understatement.
I would love to try it.
Better sleep, some of the best sleep I've ever had. I'm waking up sooner, waking up more rested. My resting heart rate now is down in the low to mid 50s. I've noticed also in my training when I go to the gym, not that I would say I was a big mouth breather before, but I'm now consciously catching myself that I'm only nasal breathing. And if I ever do go to mouth breathing, I'm stopping it right away.
Yeah.
I'll hop on the treadmill
That's
sometimes.
a game changer, dude.
Yeah, and I can do 30 minutes incline level 10 on the treadmill walk completely through my nose now.
Love that, bro. That's a
Respiratory
big deal.
rate, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Get on the mouth taping game.
I love that. And I've been doing the yoga, the exercise, everything is of nose breathing. You do that all day. For me, that's worked really well. And I would say, my sleep has been really good for the last 5-6 years it's sort of naturally fallen into a good rhythm. And I think anything that any tools that are available to us, fucking do it. And I would be down to try the mouth tape. But nasal breathing is a life-changing it's a life-changing technology that we don't even fucking think about, dude.
Anybody's curious, have you read, you should check out the books Breath and the Oxygen Advantage.
Oh, yes. Who wrote Oxygen Advantage? Breath is James Nestor.
Yeah,
that should be in schools.
Is he the Irish guy?
Yeah. Oh, that's McEwen.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I was just talking to my buddy about, he mentioned him the other day. That's funny.
Mind-blowing stuff.
Yeah. It's good stuff. You need to read those books if you haven't. if you haven't read those books. Well, it's such a fascinating thing, man, because we've got this nervous system inside our body, and it's totally regulated by your breath.
So simple.
Just by breathing in and out of your nose, you quiet down the amygdala, the reptilian brain, the center of fight, flight, freeze, fix. You turn on the prefrontal cortex, the Godhead, the center of executive decision making. When you're in fight, flight, freeze, fix, which is activated through mouth breathing, by the way, breathing in and out of your mouth is like hitting the panic button on your nervous system. Because think about it. If you were out in the forest and a fucking grizzly bear or mountain lion came and was stalking you and running you down, immediately you'd want to fly into fight, flight, freeze. You'd start breathing in and out of your mouth, pumping more adrenaline, pumping cortisol so that you could
Preparing the body to
survive, to try to do its best to survive. Give yourself the optimal advantage here. Hormonally, your blood vessels restrict because if you get cut or you lose a limb, you don't want to bleed to death. All of these things happen. And when you're breathing in and out of your mouth, all of that stuff is going down. So think about how many people are walking around the world in this low hum of fight or flight because your amygdala is turned on, you're breathing in and out of your mouth. Just by breathing in and out of your nose, you quiet that down. Your body produces its own nitric oxide, dilates the blood vessels, lowers the heart rate, lowers blood pressure, gets you into rest, digest, recover, detoxify. You can't do any of that stuff when you're in fight or flight. Do you realize that?
All just by changing your breath.
Isn't that a fucking trip?
Crazy. The most powerful tool we have to take dominion over our lives, reduce stress, step into homeostasis is just something we're already doing, but we're probably doing incorrectly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a mind blower, dude.
God, yeah.
And it's really, when you get down to it, like the root cause of all illness, inflammation, all of this stuff is because so much of it, maybe not all of it, so much of it can be addressed through how we're breathing. Then it's probably what we're eating,
Our
the
immune
water.
system's first line of defense lies in the mucous membranes of your nose. If you're not nasal breathing, you're doing it a disservice.
Exactly, dude.
Yeah.
Exactly. You got all those little hairs. All those little hairs that are collecting all the stuff that we don't want to take in. It's getting locked in there. Then it goes into your mucus. You swallow it, goes into your digestive system, burned up by the stomach acid. Otherwise, you're just inhaling it right into the lungs, taking it right into the blood.
And if you want to nerd out like me, ever since mouth taping on my Whoop data, like I said,
Is it off the charts?
My resting heart rate has dropped about 8 to sometimes 10 beats per minute.
It's amazing.
As well as my respiratory rate has dropped significantly.
Interesting.
So I have a stronger pulmonary system.
I love that.
Yeah, how many breaths per minute that you need to take? It has gone down, and these are good things. Going down is a good thing.
Yes.
It's just incredible. Well, Eb, you're a guy that I know we could sit here and we could just hash out the rest of the day. But you know what you bring to the table here for Everforward Radio is a lot. You bring a lot of your story and your expertise and your curiosity of how we can finally take dominion back over our life, what we want our life to look like, to feel like, how to stay curious with it, and how in a lot of different areas we can move forward. And that's what the show is all about, man. So I'm going to ask you my final question. Living a life ever forward, when you hear those words, what does that mean to you?
It means a lot. It means a lot. I love that. I love that concept, ever forward.
Thank you.
And I think it goes back to something we were talking about earlier. You know, when you come into contact with adversity, your demons, the devil, whatever it might be, that thing that's trying to convince you to doubt yourself or to doubt the situation, it's important to be able to look back first and go, look at how far I've come, dude. Look at how far I've come to get here. Wow. And I did that one step at a time, moving forward in the direction of light, love, prosperity, goodness, God. And that's what I'm going to keep doing one day at a time. Just going to keep putting one foot in front of the other. I know exactly who I am, what my purpose is, what I'm doing here. I'm just going to keep moving in the direction of that good feeling. That's it.
I love how you reminded us to look back when we're trying to move forward. And I've definitely done this. We think that's all it takes. We think I just need to choose to move forward. I need to put one foot in front of the other. And that is very important. But I can tell you honestly, the biggest ways I have ever moved forward in my life is when I finally paused to just, first of all, take a breath, take a pause, but then to look back and really acknowledge how far I have come, but also to really kind of acknowledge how much of my past am I just running away from for the sake of moving forward. There's a difference between moving forward and just adding a link on a chain to a past that is just still there, still weighing us down. But until we look back and acknowledge it, honor it, respect it, thank it, I mean, then we can turn and fully move forward freely, I believe.
Mic drop, bro.
Well, that's the end of the show. So perfect timing, man.
Let's go.
Eb, I'm going to put all the information and all the, the great resources we've been talking about in the show notes, but where can they go today, right now, right here to connect with you? What are you doing most in the world right now?
Check me out on Instagram. That's got everything that I've got going on at EDS Britton.
And the Ebb and Flow podcast.
And the Ebb and Flow podcast. And you can check out my book, The Ebb and Flow, Basic Tools to Transform Your Life.
All down in the show notes for you guys and video notes for on the video. Ebb, this was great, man. So good to sit down with you. Appreciate you.
Thank you, bro.
Yeah.